Welcome to the WRAL Daily Download. I'm Jack Hagel. North Carolina Republicans scored big last week when a Democrat in the state House of Representatives decided to change parties. We're talking about Representative Tricia Cotham. Her bombshell of a decision gives the GOP a veto-proof majority in the chamber, making it easier for Republicans to write their agenda into the law books. Cotham vows to hold on to some of the beliefs that got her elected into a deep blue district in the Charlotte suburbs. That has political observers wondering, will she flip on any hot-button issues? WRAL state government reporter Will Doran has been covering the drama, and he joins us today. Will, quite a week last week.
Yes, it was high drama at the state legislature.
Well, it's not every day that you hear of a longtime Democrat, or Republican for that matter, just up and walk over to the other side of the aisle. What happened?
No, it's not even every year. I mean, this has barely happened at all in the last couple decades of state politics. I mean, this is incredibly rare. And, she quite literally crossed over to the other side. We watched her, pick up her things from her desk, on the Democratic side of the aisle and, walk them over to the Republican side, changed seats, Well,
why don't you break down what happened on that day? News broke of this and describe the energy in the State House.
Yeah, all of a sudden, Tuesday morning, rumors just started flying that, hey, this thing is going to happen. And, it wasn't a complete surprise, and we can get into a little bit of that later, why people weren't completely shocked by this. But, when it actually is real, it's pretty shocking. And, everyone's just running around everywhere trying to confirm it. And, I was talking, some of the sergeant at arms, and they're like, why are there so many reporters here all of a sudden? What is this flurry of activity about? And they're like, oh, okay, this is what's happening. And, all the Republicans knew, but they were being cagey about it and, kind of wink, wink, nod, nod kind of, responses whenever you'd ask them about it. Well, if these rumors are true, then we're going to have a great time and it's going to be great. And here's exactly why she made her decision.
Now, as you mentioned, you said this wasn't a complete surprise. What do you mean by that?
Well, even though this does now officially on paper give the GOP the votes for veto overrides, they'd essentially been able to do that so far. And now, obviously we don't know how votes would have gone on bills that haven't yet come up for a vote, but on a couple big bills that there have been veto overrides for, Cotham had kind of sided with the GOP. There was a bill to force sheriffs to work with ICE that nearly every Democrat voted against, except for her and a couple others. There was a guns bill to repeal the state's pistol permits, and when the veto override came up for that, she didn't vote with Republicans on it, but she didn't show up for the vote, along with a couple other Democrats, and that had the same effect just because of the way the math works on those sorts of things of voting with the Republicans, and their absence allowed that bill to become law and repeal the pistol permits in our state. So, there'd been these signs that she was breaking with the Democratic Party on a few things, but now it's official.
But even earlier, there were other signs too, right?
That's exactly right. Early in the session, when House Speaker Tim Moore was doling out committee chairmanships, he gave Cotham a chairmanship on the House Education Committee, a really, really important committee that obviously deals with all education issues from early childhood up to universities. And it's really rare for a Democrat to get that sort of power in the Republican-controlled legislature. And that led people, even before any big votes started happening, to kind of say, hey, there's something going on here. And obviously everyone knew that Republicans needed to flip Democrats if they wanted to override any vetoes. And that kind of, was the initial sign that people had of here's maybe one of the people that they're going to be targeting for that.
So what does this really mean for Republicans and for Democrats? I mean, Republicans obviously have their supermajority, but it's more complicated than that, right?
Yeah, like we said, they had sort of had a functional supermajority already, but this really gives them a lot more confidence, especially on some things that were, a little dicier, and really has just energized a lot of Republicans that I've talked to, both politicians and also, lobbyists, activists, advocates, people like that. They're really excited about this, really like, okay, we've got our supermajorities now. Like, let's go, let's do this. Because, they haven't had this since that 2018 blue wave election when Democrats kind of swept some Republicans out, especially in the suburbs. And here's a suburban Charlotte seat that Republicans have now won back. So, they're excited about that. And, Democrats, obviously, they're trying to hold their head up high about this, but, it's hard to spin it as anything but, pretty bad news for the party.
Well, let's take a quick break. And when we come back, we'll talk about where Cotham stands on the issues and whether that'll create any problems with her new party. Stick around. Welcome back to the WRAL Daily Download. We're talking with WRAL state government reporter Will Doran about Representative Tricia Cotham. She recently changed parties, giving Republicans a veto-proof majority in the state House. Will, the day after all this news broke, Cotham held a press conference where she vowed that she was an independent thinker. What did you take that to mean?
Well, as we said, she never voted 100% down the party line with the Democrats, and I think this was her way of kind of telling Republicans, even though I am joining your party, don't necessarily expect me to vote as you want me to on every single issue. And, even though Democrats are calling on her to resign, I think that's given them a little bit of hope. You heard them say, okay, tell us that you didn't completely lie to your voters when you're running for election, that you're going to stick to your values on issues like abortion, like LGBTQ rights, and I think it's, she's got a lot of leverage here. She is the swing vote on whether or not vetoes get overridden. And, if she's a savvy politician, she's going to be able to use that leverage. And even House Speaker Tim Moore acknowledged that during her press conference on Wednesday. He said, there are going to be times when she comes up and tells me, no, I don't agree with this. And he added, you know what? That'll be fine. He kind of laughed a little bit because you know what? Yeah, it's worth it to them. Even if they don't get her 100% of the time, they are very happy to have her.
Well, let's break down some of the areas that people are watching. The biggest question mark is abortion, right?
Absolutely. And Cotham has had an abortion herself, has actually told that story several years ago on the House floor to fight against new abortion restrictions that Republicans were pushing, which are currently the law. And she, just a couple months ago, co-sponsored a bill to codify Roe v. Wade and those protections into law in the state. That would actually expand the abortion protections that we have in North Carolina right now. But when we asked her, would you be willing to back, now that you're a Republican, a GOP-backed abortion restriction bill, she wouldn't comment on that, which, any Democrat would, of course, say, no, I'm not going to do that. So that gave Democrats a little bit of pause that she wouldn't say, she's saying I'm an independent thinker, but she's not saying exactly what. And so that leaves this huge question mark on abortion. We're just going to have to wait and see. But I should note, we're also in the middle of all of this doing the state budget. And there was a vote Thursday in the House on some amendments. Democrats had proposed an amendment to strip out the millions of dollars in funding for religious groups that are anti-abortion pregnancy crisis centers that the budget funds, and Cotham shot that amendment down along with every other Republican. So there was, at least one early vote.
She's also been a big champion of LGBTQ rights. Do you think she'll continue to be?
Again, another big question and another no comment from newly Republican Representative Tricia Cotham. The same day that she changed parties, Republicans filed, I think it was 4 or 5 different bills, all kind of aimed at a different sort of anti-transgender issue, ranging from, athletes in sports to, how doctors can issue treatments, things like that. We asked her. Our colleague Travis Fain went up to her and said, hey, have you seen all these bills? What do you think? And she said, no comment. So, that's yet another one where, Democrats are really hoping that she's going to, stick to her guns, but we'll just have to wait and see.
And speaking about guns, what about them? We mentioned that her non-vote led to the passage of a bill that loosened restrictions on handguns. But there are other gun bills hanging in the balance, right?
Yes, there are several, and this is probably one of the areas where you are going to see her, more solidly vote with Republicans. She went on Fox News after this all broke and, kind of talked about how she didn't like Democrats called her an ammosexual. So, so yeah, we're probably expecting to see her vote with the GOP a lot on gun bills. And there's several more that are out there. There's a bill that would let employees and volunteers for private schools to bring guns onto campus, including into the classroom for teachers. There's a bill, a really sweeping bill that would basically get rid of all of the rules that we have for concealed carry permits and just say anyone who's 18 and who can have a gun can carry it concealed in public. They don't need to pass any of the tests that we have. They don't need to pass a background check. Supporters call that constitutional carry. And some gun rights advocates are saying, we need to get this done now. This is the next big thing on our agenda. And you know what? If Cotham wants to have a future in the GOP, she's going to have to vote for that stuff. That's what they're saying. If you don't vote for issues like that, you're never going to win a Republican primary. So there's, already pressure. She's been a Republican for, a day, and there's already pressure on her to vote for those gun bills.
What's her end game here? She's obviously lost the trust of the Democrats in her district, which is very blue, as we discussed. What's next for her? Can she win there again? Will she even run?
She cannot win in the district that she's got right now, but she doesn't have to. The legislature is going to redraw all of the districts for the state legislature and also for Congress later this year. And, some people are suspecting that might actually be the big reason why she made this party switch. We saw originally when Republicans redrew the maps after the 2020 census, they wanted to put several Republican-leaning seats into the Charlotte suburbs, as well as, into other suburban areas of the state. Those maps got struck out as unconstitutional, and that's what resulted in her current district that she's got, which is so heavily Democratic there in Charlotte. But there's a new balance of power on the state Supreme Court. Democrats used to be in control. They are not anymore. Republicans have swept to power, and they are widely expected to give the legislature pretty wide leeway to draw the maps more or less however they want. And so, I think there's a feeling that, Cotham's district could be drawn to be, much more red, and maybe would be drawn to be much more red, no matter what. So maybe she's getting out ahead of it, and ensuring her political future, or, maybe she's got aspirations for some sort of higher office. 2024 is coming up. Just about every single office in the entire state is going to be up for election, and plenty of them are going to be open. We have a lot of even statewide races where there's not incumbents running. So, she's definitely somebody to watch.
Well, we shall see. Will, thanks for all your reporting on this.
Thank you for having me.
That's WRAL state government reporter Will Doran. For his in-depth look at the Cotham move and for all of our state legislative coverage, visit the NC Capitol section of WRAL.com. I'm Jack Hagel. Thanks for joining us, and thanks for listening to the WRAL Daily Download and for making us part of your morning routine. Another great way to get WRAL news is the Morning Briefing newsletter. It's a daily email with Triangle news, events, and headlines to help you get ready for the day. Sign up at WRAL.com/newsletter.